Hi, welcome to the final video in a collection of 5 about post-structuralist discourse analysis. In the previous video, I talked about the process of coding texts. In this video, I take the final step in the process of PDA, analyzing the discourse on the basis of the codes. After this, I will revisit the research question that I introduced in the first video and answer it. Coding a text is not discourse analysis. Discourse analysis means inquiring into power relations. After coding, the next step is to show what the subjects that are talked about and how they are talked about tells us about the reproduction of social relations, particularly relations between the self and the other. Roxanne Doughty calls the way these relations manifest themselves in the text subject positioning. Lena Hansen provides useful ways to think about and visualize this positioning. Central to her model are the notions of similarity and difference, or in Hansen's words, linking and differentiation. In the discourse I read, reread and coded for my project, the two most central subjects were Iran and the United States. That is, the United States was the main subject used to differentiate Iran from. Hansen writes that identity is usually constructed with reference to space, time, and morality. In their most radical forms, spatial identity differentiates between far away and close by, temporal identity between past and future, and moral identity between right and wrong. In the official discourse on the US and Iran during Ahmadinejad, all of these differentiations were important. In terms of space, Iran was part of the region, here. The United States was invading the region from far away, there. In terms of time, Iran was on the rise and part of the future. The United States was on the decline and would soon be part of the past. In terms of its moral identity, the United States was wrong and Iran was right. You probably notice that every positive attribute given to Iran directly corresponds with a negative attribute given to the US. Here, there, on the rise, on the decline, right, wrong. This mechanism is called differentiation, and it strengthens the notion of difference. At the same time, the mechanism of linking takes place. Linking means that the attributes of one subject connect to each other, and they strengthen each other. This probably sounds rather abstract, but it becomes clearer when we look at the model Hansen developed to visualize the processes of linking and differentiation. In my research project, I used this model to visualize the moral identity of the US and Iran in Ahmadinejad's discourse. Please pause the video here and take a moment to study this figure. While studying this model, you probably noticed that the two heptagons are mirror images of one another. In Ahmadinejad's foreign policy discourse, Iran was constructed as able, the US as unable. Iran was democratic, the US was undemocratic, etc. Probably you also notice that the logic and consistency behind the construction of this identity is strong. Even if you don't share Ahmadinejad's worldview, you likely agree that this construction of Iranian identity vis-à-vis the United States is inherently consistent. The logic and consistency of Ahmadinejad's discourse is even stronger when we place this identity construction in the context of the broader discourse. Unfortunately, in this video collection, I don't have time to explore with you the entire width and depth of my discourse analysis, but I will summarize the main findings of my project. Iran's foreign policy discourse during Ahmadinejad centers on the notion of change, meaning it constructed the identity of Iran as a changed nation through the 1979 revolution. This change meant that before the revolution, Iran was passive in the face of US domination. Through the revolution, it became resistant, and this resistance is the main pillar under Iran's identity as communicated during Ahmadinejad. and also what connects Iran to other regional and global actors which resist US dominance. The United States itself, according to the discourse, is capable of change, but hasn't changed. However, if it will not change, it will inevitably become part of the past. Iran and other resistant nations will become victorious and have the future in a new multipolar global order. I started my research project with the question, how can we understand Iranian foreign policy behavior during Ahmadinejad in the context of the dominant foreign policy discourse during the same time period? To answer this question, I did not only do discourse analysis, but simultaneously I studied Iranian foreign policy during Ahmadinejad. It became clear that there was a lot more to say about this foreign policy outside of the bad relations with Iran and the West. Iranian foreign policy during Ahmadinejad was focused on creating and improving ties with non-Western powers, particularly aspiring middle powers. Having analyzed Iranian foreign policy during Ahmadinejad, we understand that the foreign policy of continued animosity towards the United States made sense in the context of this discourse. It was a logical choice in a discursive context where the US was constructed as the main enemy. Moreover, this construction was made plausible by many references to US behavior in past and present. Iran's continued resistance against the US opened up ways for Iran to connect to like-minded states. And this reflects in Ahmadinejad's attempts to create international counter-hegemonic alliances. My project on Iranian foreign policy during Ahmadinejad is an example of how PDA sheds light on the international behavior of states by creating awareness of the domestic discursive context in which foreign policy gets shape. These 5 videos have given you an introduction into the use of PDA in international relations. PDA studies the construction of meaning in communication. It involves a process of source collection, selection, reading and rereading, coding, and analysis. In the end, PDA shows how certain behavior, in this case foreign policy, is made possible in the context of a dominant discourse. I hope these videos have helped you to get a grip on the method of post-structuralist discourse analysis, and I wish you best of luck with your project.